This land trust was excess MARTA land, and it came about after MARTA dug this ramp along the tracks and put a tunnel under the tracks, and then dug their ramp up to the other side. But when MARTA was done with their project, they auctioned off this land, and a group of neighbors pooled their resources together, won it at auction, and began clearing the trash and the kudzu and ordering plants through the mail, and moving stones and building stages and saunas and fish ponds. Planting banana trees. We got a little clump of bananas right here on this tree. Life in the city.
The land, that is the land trust, was owned by MARTA, which is the Mass Transit Authority. And we realized it was going to be sold for houses, and at the time the property was pretty affordable. So we spent a couple of years organizing, and along with a few other neighbors. And it actually took about 5 years, I think, total, from when we started organizing to when we bought the land.
Norm Amata, Norm of Maryland, first brought my attention to this idea of the community buying some surplus property up here.
My parents got involved. My dad's the one who got involved for a while, and he came a couple years after they started.
We had just moved to the neighborhood when this was bought, and we're going through a big transition. I wasn't involved with it here in the beginning, but have been for a good while now. I can't say how long, but I've been coming since pretty early in the land trust era.
The land trust was purchased approximately around 1986, I believe. 1986, 1988. I don't know the exact date, but it's been almost 20 years.
Put together by a bunch of like-minded people, and it went from like a thought to reality and beyond.
First of all, Charlie, one of the founders of the land trust, says that all the dogs and cats that live on the land trust are reincarnated Buddhist monks. And I like that, and that this is their reward. And I'm sure that it feels very rewarding for the people that live here too, because there's a place for the children to get together and run around and feel safe. They're running together, they're playing together, they're enjoying themselves, they're kind of babysitting each other. The land trust is babysitting the children. It's great. And then there's a place for drum circles and guitar circles and fires, and drink a beer or have some wine at night with the adults, and all the adults congregate and meet and have a good time. So then there's more of a community mindset. When anything happens around here, like a land trust or somebody that had any kind of car troubles or house troubles, or rarely there's ever a crime, everybody in the neighborhood is immediately aware and band together to help the person because they know them from the drum circles. Their kids play with their kids. They come to the potlucks that are frequent in some of the houses in the neighborhood.
I live next door there, and I lovingly refer to my gate as, Alice in Wonderland's rabbit hole.
This is a general map of the land trust itself. We're right here by this bulletin board. We just passed the solar well, the gardens, the sand pile, the gazebo, the stage, the fire pit, the city overlook, the water garden, and the sweat lodge or sauna. Next door, Tree Climbers International have recreational tree climbing the first and third Sunday of every month.
It's using the land for the good of everybody. And even though I have a private business of recreational tree climbing, a school, it's green space people can walk through. We have a big picnic table, and it's used by the community, so it's a really nice fit. Also, too, it's I'm a drummer myself. My old hippie name was Bongo, so sometimes I go up in the drumming circle and I drum. So it's hey, it's great. It's fabulous.
This is our drum circle and fire pit and stage area. The stage is named after one of our great neighbors, Mark Sanger, who passed on a couple of years ago this November. And it was inaugurated in his honor in October before he passed. This was his vision, to have some performances and plays and acting and things of that nature.
I come to the drum circles, and every now and then they have events here, they have bands play. I've played here before, my band. And just a place to have fun, be in nature, and get away from the city.
I always been a dancer, and I always, enjoy meeting people and playing drums. So many years ago, when I first moved here, somebody happened to tell me about the drum circle. So I came over, and I really, really fell in love with this place, because it's in the middle of the city, and it's just been in paradise.
People participating in it, the different events that go on, and the drum circles. I mean, I just get so excited, going over there and, being able to dance and really participate in that way.
This has given us a green space in what had been an industrial waste. Marta had just left a devastated piece of land here. By getting in and working, the neighbors got to know each other. I really think every neighborhood should have a land trust. It's a lot of work, though. It's building communities, not an easy thing. It's very rewarding, but it's not easy.
The Sweat Lodge, I think, was the first structure we built.
There's a community mural for the fireproofing behind the stove. Numerous neighbors are going to do a panel at a tile mosaic. But these two panels are going to be tiled just so there's less of a fire risk. This actually burned down, and the foundation is the only thing that survived from the original.
We had a garden shed up there for a while. Then I guess we built a gazebo.
Here's our community gazebo. There's a community potluck here the 13th of every month when the weather cooperates. This pecan is the main tree that's original. Almost everything else has been planted.
For the Olympics, we had camping out here, and we did some fundraising. We built a compost toilet.
It's a tool shed at the moment. It was used back in '96 when we had campers here during the Olympics.
My kids, we used to go up there, to the sand before I came to Amara. I knew that place over there. My kids always loved it, and I think that's one of the reasons that I really like staying here, is because my kids really enjoy being here. And when you think about it, this is a huge I don't know how you say it, like a
Backyard?
Backyard, yeah, a huge backyard that they claim as their own. And they can do whatever they want, and we never have enough just walking around there and playing.
Early on, when we were starting the land trust, one of the things we toyed with was mandating that the land trust be totally off the grid. But the realities of the money was such, it was hard enough just to buy the land and keep that going. So going off the grid might happen up there, but in the future.
Well, we do have a solar pump for our well.
There is a solar water system up there.
Yeah, so it pumps very pure
well
water.
Well, there's a solar panel that feeds or powers this pump. There's a well that was dug 500 feet, mostly through granite, and at 180 feet they hit water. So on a sunny day you can come up here with a jug, turn that panel so it faces the sun, and get water right out of the ground.
Yeah, the water is very soft.
It's very soft, very alive. The water coming out of the pipe into the house is dead. Yeah. And even when it runs through the filter and it takes out the chlorine and all of the bad taste, it still doesn't have any life to it. But this water out of the earth like that, it's just like...
It's a common grounds for people to interact. And in fact, there's an intentional community across the street. on both sides of this, adjacent, where the idea is to interact. It's a sustainable idea, sustainable culture. It means making things easier without using that many resources.
The barn house on the left is the original house here at Amata. It was built by a Georgia Tech professor in the 30s. And he inscribed Amata over the front door, which I've been told means beloved in Latin. And he and his wife lived here. It's roughly an acre and a half. And then in the mid-70s, Norman ended up stumbling upon it. Half the houses in this neighborhood were abandoned at the time. Most of these trees around here were covered with kudzu, and when Norm bought the property, he started clearing it. And he wanted it to be a space where many people could appreciate the size of the property and the variety, from the garden space to the private wooded areas, and then later on to the pond.
At the time that I came here, a lot of the young people that were about my age lived, as a red-tailed hawk, lived in the Amata here, and they were all of a very specific belief system and a very tight-knit community. And they lived next to the land trust, which had trails through the woods and a fire pit. And I was coming from Minneapolis, and it was quite amazing.
This year, recently, I came back from one of my trips, and I didn't have a place to live, and I wanted to feel like I was with family, you know. And so I saw a sign, and I said, "This is probably the right place."
Amata is kind of a bonus in that it's not just the intentional community thing, but you also have the land trust. So you've got the community plus the land trust, and the land trust is a whole different deal. It's nice that our property backs up to that because you have that wooded area. It's kind of like, you know, except for the big antenna tower, you'd almost forget you were living in Atlanta.
And just being able to like come together with similar values, being able to do, you know, composting and have similar interests and spiritual ideals, and to have like a forum to speak about those, I think is really needed. You know, and just to have that, to see that, you know, we're not all just like in our own little cubicles with our TVs and we don't ever come out. You know, it's
the second half
even more different than a city where people are living close together, but most definitely more than a suburb where everybody's just very isolated.
Some of the people here feel that nobody owns the land, that everybody has the right to the land. And stewardship of the land, that the land owns us, we don't own the land. The land is the source of wealth, the land is the source of everything.
I felt like being in Amata is like, you know, you just meet all these people passing by, feeling like it's more connection, you know, it's more a family-oriented circumstance. And I really feel that, you know, that's the way we are in Latin America or in any of the third world countries. And also another thing that I really like is doesn't matter, you know, who you are, what background you have, if you have money or not. I mean, here is who you are inside, and that's what people cares about.
It shows that people can live together and share resources and not kind of like plunder the planet like the way we've been doing. Like, you know, like everyone has a separate house, separate bathroom, separate this, separate that. Whereas here we share that, and it saves, you know, on the environment, but it also saves us money too.
Well, I go to the drum circles. I haven't been to any of the studio events. Those are relatively recent. Recent development.
Before it used to be the studio was open, so we just go down there and do like to meditate and do yoga and stuff, and they do karate lessons and stuff down there too.
And before it was closed off, I spent a good bit of the summer painting, and I did a lot of painting in there.
Now I'm trying to beautify the whole entrance since I just started managing the studio a couple of months ago. So I'm trying to make it really welcoming. There's a barking dog and there's construction going on, so it's not exactly the most warm, fuzzy entrance. But the intention is definitely to create that atmosphere in the sacred space.
We've got numerous garden beds. Times we've had chickens, we've had goats. We currently have Lou, the emu. And there's a small private fire pit over here. There's a variety of construction projects underway at the moment.
As you can see, there's new construction going. I moved somewhere else in the neighborhood while the new house is being built, and then I moved back in there.
It's at an angle to all the other houses. All the other houses are square. It's north, south, east, west. This house has angles that go southeast. I can't think of any other house on the block. I've been in every house.
Here's another one of the many garden beds. This is planted by Tractor Bob. See some figs, some peppers, various greens.
I'm hired on by the land trustees to take care of this place.
I like that there's gardens and green space because it's in the city and there's not a lot of that.
Yeah, and I like the community atmosphere.
Yeah.
You know, I think there needs to be more places like this.
I've done a lot of gardening, hot peppers, and up the hill I have some Thai peppers and jalapeno peppers.
We've got mulberry, Chinese chestnut, pecan, pear, blueberries, various mints, bamboo, mimosa, cherry trees, tomatoes. Delicious, even first week in November.
You know, it's like a garden though. You plant a seed and you pick flowers all year, put them in your house, and celebrate that is, you know, who we are.
We're a recognized wildlife sanctuary by Audubon due to the number of fruit trees, water features, and the variety of different plants that either provide shelter or food. We've got a number of bird feeders around, bird houses like on this pine tree. We've had herons come by and fish when they're passing through on their migration paths.
We just moved in a few weeks ago. It's more of a community than our last neighborhood because we lived way out in Barrow County. And it was a cul-de-sac, and there wasn't really that much that... As soon as people came home from their job, they're pretty much isolated inside.
It's a good place to grow up. You know, it's a safe and it's a good place to grow up.
Every neighborhood needs a land trust, and every neighborhood needs a place to celebrate the relationships that are so profound. You know, the relationships between each other as humans and this planet, nature, the animals. It's that. And there's so much to celebrate.
Look around your neighborhood, and if there's vacant land, get together with neighbors and try to buy it and put it into a nonprofit corporation. And you'll have some magical stuff happening too.
There should definitely be more land trusts, and people in my community be willing to help other people start out and give a basis for what we've already figured out over the almost 20 years.
So every neighborhood needs a land trust.
Every community needs a land trust.
Well, every neighborhood needs a land trust.
Every neighborhood needs a land trust. Motto.
The ones on the other side of me.
In this last frame.
Yes, every neighborhood